Okay,
We're ready to go.
all right, I would like to bring the Board of Health, March 2nd, 2026 to order.
Seconded, yeah.
Elevator.
Aye.
Okay, so our first agenda item is public comment. And so we will wait for 3 minutes and just.
Yeah, we have Bedford TV and Jackie, so that's all we have, and Sandy's here for her application, right, permit.
Want to let's just wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is 6:03.
Not bad. Stand by.
I can read your eyes.
Mhm.
No. Oh. All right, no one else has joined.
No one has joined. No.
Nope. 6:04. So I guess we'll close public comment.
Sounds good.
Next order of business, new food establishment permit ratification. So.
Sandy.
Hi, Sandy.
And.
This is Sandy Zoe. She's a longtime employee of Ginger. The previous owner of Ginger decided to move. It was time to move on so that she could enjoy the rest of her life. Not stay in the restaurant all the time. So Sandy applied for a new food establishment permit. And she passed her pre-operational inspection on January 26th.
Okay.
And on Monday, January 26th, she was able to open her new business. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, everyone. My name is Sandy Zhou. I'm just the new owner of the Ginger Japanese cuisine. I work in there for 9 years, so the owner they sell to me. So I'm working every day over there, make sure we follow all the healthy and food safety rules. So
She's doing a good job.
no, thank you.
Thank you.
So
I remember asking Heidi once, like, where are the good restaurants in town, bad restaurants in town? And she's like, well, I don't really want to say, but I want to say the health department eats ginger.
Sandy, I know you were an employee and now you're the owner. Were you able to keep some of the other employees, or are you starting with new employees?
no, always the old employee.
Okay.
Yeah, everything same.
So they already know the importance of health, safety and everything, which is great.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
That's really nice to hear, the
Thank you.
continuity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're starting off at a good place already.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any changes to the menu?
Nothing changed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eating what I always order.
I wanted to know.
Like among the things that better say.
Okay.
No, that's really great. So, so now, anything else that has to happen for a new owner? I mean, you went in, you did an inspection.
Yep. She had her
And-
pre-operational inspection, the re-inspection, and then we also had Mogen go in. And
Oh.
they were just had their inspection coming up anyhow, so
Oh,
just
okay,
kind of went in. But
Yes.
yeah, so they're
Great,
good. They're
great.
good.
And she'll be
Just
on the
continuity.
schedule for, how often? For
Yeah, how often, given that it's sushi and everything?
Yeah, so that'll be 3 times a year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a year.
Okay.
Great. Great, but nothing out of the ordinary. It sounds like
Nothing.
you were able to kind of sync or keep the same schedule.
Yeah.
For your, so you can know what you have to do going on, so.
And we had the previous owner at the inspection too, so that in case there were any questions, in case Sandy had anything that she needed to.
Uh-huh.
So it was just great flow. Just
That's wonderful.
like
I love
handing off a
that.
baton, it was
Yeah, yeah, really
seamless.
passing the knowledge, right?
Yeah.
I like the
Yeah, reading.
continuity.
Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Congratulations, that's
Yeah,
a big
that's
thing
a
to be
big step.
responsible for the whole restaurant, that's a big. That's
Different,
a big
yeah.
one for you, so that's great.
Thank you.
It's such a successful business.
We will keep better.
Yeah, that's good.
How many years? How many years? has it
Maybe
been
doing, I see the before owner, 20 years.
Yeah.
there? Oh, yeah, it's been here a
The
long.
previous building even.
Yes, the previous building.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were here, we moved in 2003 and they were here.
That's right, yeah.
You have become an institution.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Then I work in there for 9 years.
9
Okay.
years.
Right.
Right.
All right, any more questions?
No.
Sandy?
Congratulations.
Thank
Someone
you.
wanna make a
So,
motion?
you.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I move that the Board of Health ratify the permit to operate a food establishment for Ginger at 88 The Great Road that was previously issued by the Health Department.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Right,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice to see you again, Sandy.
Okay, that's great. All right, so,
I like the continuity.
Yeah.
I really like that the previous owner was there. She
Oh,
wanted
that's-
to be there. You can just tell there's so much care in this business.
Yes, yes, email.
You know, she was there for all parts of it.
Oh, that's
To the
wonderful.
point where I said, it's okay, I have
It's
to
your
talk to the
baby.
new person now.
She was handing off her.
I love
baby.
it, yeah. You like to see
oh,
that.
but that's lovely.
Yeah,
That's
great.
No, it is
really,
good.
Yep.
you know,
They
passing
take
the
a lot of
knowledge
care.
down and keeping institutional knowledge there.
Yeah.
As
Yep.
we know. This is-
Exactly.
Could be a different story there.
We do know that.
That's one.
That's good.
Okay, I guess we're on to reports.
We are. Marisa, you wanna kick us off?
Sure. Okay, we had 13 annual food inspections, this month. A little bit higher with the, violations this month. But nothing really out of the ordinary. I don't know if it's just how everything was syncing.
I was just looking for another packet, was it?
It came late, it might not be in the packets.
No, no, no.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
it's just-
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that, yep.
Thought there was a stack here, didn't see the names.
So say again.
Oh, it is here, sorry.
Okay,
Or 6 or
I'm gonna
7.
start over again.
Yes. So.
So this month we had 13 annual inspections.
Yeah.
We did have some extra violations we don't see month to month. However, they weren't out of the ordinary. It's just that they might be sprinkled throughout the year and I'm not sure how it all happened this month. But it's something we're keeping our eye on. So, you know, there were signs missing, allergen awareness signs, and that might not seem like a big deal, but those signs are supposed to be in the kitchen for employees to reference, just to make sure they know, you know, all of the allergens.
Yes, I used to have a question on that one because of my own allergies. Why, I guess. It tends to be there once they open. Did someone take it down?
I don't know. I've seen this at multiple restaurants. I'm not really sure how that's happening.
Cause I'm like,
I
once
don't
it's up,
know.
it should just
It
stay.
should just stay up. I don't know how
Okay.
it's all of a sudden coming up on inspections. I know. There were things we found, incorrect cooling methods, incorrect food storage, so, talking about preventing cross contamination, so we wanna make sure chicken products are on the bottom, not the
Oh, yeah.
top.
Right.
Eggs are on the bottom, not the top, so just like stuff out of order could, again, create.
Has there been staff turnover or you can't maybe tell?
I don't know that
Yeah,
for
you
sure,
don't know.
but either way, it falls on the person in charge, so
Right.
it still shouldn't matter.
Right.
What's a wear washing machine?
Oh, it's a dishwasher.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just the food code
Okay.
calls it a wear washing
Okay,
machine. Yeah,
thank you, never heard that.
sure.
Like flatware.
Oh, okay,
General
dishware,
record,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't know till I read the food
Yes,
code
okay.
either. I don't need to read every single violation, but
Yes.
we did see kind of an uptick this month. And then because of the weather, obvious things, like the food truck, they had, their water tank froze
Oh.
and their soap froze. So during the inspection, one of the employees went out and they brought some hot water in from a container that was approved and then they got new soap. But you still wonder, I mean, how long was it like that and how did we just happen to catch it then? So we're just keeping our eyes on things. Little things, not little, but just improper usage of gloves, like maybe they went into another room, came back after touching a door, either had the same gloves on or didn't wash their hands and then put gloves on. So you're supposed to wash your hands before you put gloves on, just to prevent contamination. So the health department is working on the standards, as everybody knows, and so we're talking about providing educational materials and maybe even having the person in charge or managers coming in, just getting everybody back on track with education. I'm gonna just kind of do a sweep over the violations we see most often, and then we are gonna offer some training based on those violations, and then ask anybody else what they might have questions with, because it's about compliance, we're not about punishment. We want to bring
Right.
them on board to help them all succeed. We know that this will be successful. They have the basics, there's just some gaps, so.
So a question on the education, is the thought to bring people from various food establishments in together, or you're doing each individually?
Not individually, so we might do a combination of Zoom.
Mm.
And we might, or something that's pre-recorded, but we do wanna offer something in person as well, because we want them to be able to ask questions live, and not everybody feels comfortable asking questions, because maybe they're embarrassed that they should know this, and,
Right.
and, you know, they're open,
Yeah.
so. We wanna be able to offer an opportunity where they can, maybe halfway through the training, write some questions down and just hand it to.
When was the
someone.
last time we had a live?
Probably a couple of years,
Years
not
ago.
since I've been here,
Yeah, a
so,
couple years ago.
yeah.
Maybe
It's time, yeah, it's time, and you know, they're very busy and, you know,
Oh,
trying to run a business, so sometimes there are things that just fall by the wayside. And it's just, it's a good time when you start seeing the same types of violations, just to say, okay, let's just do a sweep, bring everybody back to where we need to be. So I don't anticipate we're gonna, you know, have a lot of issues with establishments. We may in the beginning, because we're creating new policies. You know, if we have repeat violations down the line, we might have them come into the board and just kind of bring everyone on track, almost like we're starting sort of from the. We wanna have a really high standard, and we know that they're capable of that, so we just wanna bring everyone back to where they were.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
said that most violations were corrected. Anything of concern, like any food establishment
No.
that you're just?
No, I said most because some of them were like little things, but also not all of the places were re-inspected yet. So I don't know.
Okay,
And then, for instance, the dishwasher, the
Yeah.
washing machine, that's not corrected yet, but they have moved over to a 3-bay sink. So operational in a safe way still, so that's why I said most,
Yeah,
so
okay.
everything's safe right now, yeah.
good.
We did have 3 food complaint inspections. But I will say, nothing big came of it, so that's good to know. So 2 people in the same household did experience nausea and vomiting after eating at a food establishment. They did have different salads, but they do live in the same household. So they could have eaten somewhere else together. They could have just been sick, because what we look at is, did we get other calls? We didn't get any other calls from the entire town, so it could have, you know, and then Jackie always follows up. So it seems, so that was sort of self-resolved. And then the fire department reached out to me just to let us know that one food establishment had faulty sprinklers, so we just did an inspection just to make sure that there was no sign of water damage, and there wasn't, so that was good. And then, of course, because of the heavy snow, there was a food establishment where the ceiling was literally coming in, and it looked like a rainstorm in there. So, yeah, so that they voluntarily temporarily closed for a week to get that taken care of,
Yeah.
which we always like to see, you know, people on board to understand the food safety end of it. So all of that has been resolved, which is great to hear. And then there's a temporary food event that occurred on February 21st. That was the New Song Series at Town Hall. And not many housing inspections, even though it says 5 housing re-inspections, it's actually the same place that I keep going back for different issues. And they're working diligently, so you know, it's some of it isn't gonna be turned over immediately. Again, it's because of the weather where the ceiling has a lot of water damage, or, you know, the water heater is kind of going back and forth, so they're working diligently with that. The great thing is we don't have any nuisance complaint inspections at all. So we didn't have any complaints coming into the health department for that. The hoarding re-inspections are ongoing. I go monthly. We do have a new one that I will probably go next week for the first inspection on that. Currently, I have 5 and 2 of them are probably gonna be wrapping up, which is really great. They were self-motivated to get this done. And then no complaints for hotels and motels. That's always nice to hear. And then my ongoing training for my 12-week boarding certification.
Hold on, can I just interrupt because we're offline?
Yeah.
Remember we had this problem when.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
I don't know what's going on here. There, came back up. I think it's just a slow connection. We're frozen.
I was gonna say you're frozen.
We're frozen. Yeah,
It
you
is
know, Jack,
winter.
Jack-
That's the last thing as I said that anyone heard.
Well, we are being recorded separately.
Right,
Oh, good, good. That's good.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
so
we
we
don't-
just make sure we're back. Zoom isn't responding. Yeah, okay, we're good. We're back, yep.
okay. Does anyone have any questions? I think you sort of asked them
Mhm.
along the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jackie, do you wanna give us your report? We, actually, we promote you to analyst.
Oh, camera's a little low. Hi, everyone.
Well,
So just going off what Marisa said about the standards, I worked with, well, Heidi, Marisa, and I will work together to discuss and finalize FDA Standard 5, which is the Foodborne Illness and Food Defense Preparedness and Response Standard. And that was just pretty much putting down in writing our process for investigating foodborne illnesses and foodborne complaints. We already knew what it was, but it was just for us to like put it down in writing so that we are in accordance with the standard. For number 6, attended the Trails Committee meeting with Susan in her CERT capacity. So I know I've already discussed that due to climate change, we have more tick-borne illnesses and we're seeing different tick-borne illnesses we haven't seen before and different kinds of ticks that we haven't seen before. So the health department would, and along with CERT, would like to update our signage at in the kiosks that are at the beginning of trailheads that are frequently used. And it actually was a good timing because the Trails Committee is going and fixing up all of their kiosks. So we're going to work with them. And they're going to send me a list of all the updated kiosks. And then at the same time, I'm working on getting a like beware of ticks sign. Might not necessarily be that wordage, but have a QR code so people can scan it and get more information about ticks. Or I think it would be important to put how to check to see if you have ticks on you, because if you're going into an area that has ticks, you're maybe not necessarily avoiding them, especially if you didn't put the bug spray on. But it's so important to check. So that would be phase 1, and then phase 2 would be working on, I didn't write this here, but seeing getting like bug spray dispensers if possible, like tick repellent dispensers at the very beginning into looking into that, but we're going to see if that's possible.
Like wipes
So
or
in
something,
Australia,
or-
they actually did this really cool project that Heidi found. And it's actually a mosquito tick repellent that's like a lotion and you rub on yourself. And they just have it at different events that they have. It's not like no one's sitting there watching, making sure people are using it. It's actually just like its own freestanding dispenser. So it's like a lotion. So
Nice.
I emailed Western Australia Health Department and we've been back and forth. They're very nice, but just trying to see how we could possibly like work that into what we do. So at the very beginning of that, but looking into that.
Cool.
Jackie, quick question on the signs for the kiosks. Is it just gonna be ticks or is it gonna be ticks and mosquitoes
Um,
depending on where the
I'm
trail
not sure.
is?
So, since the Trails Committee meeting, I've haven't been, I'm still looking into like where to get the signs from and everything. So I haven't worked on like the exact words, but we can like, before I'll order, I'll work with you to see what we can all meet together and see what the wording could be. Cause I know you mentioned how it's important for mosquitoes to also be, for some places maybe mentioned on the sign. So we can work together to see what we think the signs would be best said.
Yeah, and then if I can, Jackie did a great job with the Trails Committee, but because she actually, I think, got them to think also about the other entrances in, not just the kiosk. And like she said, they don't want us posting signs on trees, but they said maybe they could put a post.
Yeah.
And on the post, we have a smaller sign, let's say.
Yeah.
Something that's narrower, so, that's where, you know, like Jackie just said, you know, like the QR code would work really well.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
nice
thanks,
job on
Kate.
that, Jackie.
One of the things that's always driven my interest in the tick-borne illnesses is that I don't think people in Bedford realize that, like, other than COVID, this is like our major preventable disease. I don't know if that kind of statement is of any help.
No,
but-
definitely.
Yeah, it's.
Because we're also going to put at the same time more education out there. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
Um, and then for number 14, so the medication disposal kiosks were delivered today. One to the police department, one to the fire department. The fire department kiosk is up and running. It looks really nice. It has the town of Bedford seal on it. And we're getting magnets delivered that will have like more information on it. So other locations with that med kiosks where they are, where the other med kiosks are, and about hazardous waste day and just some more information. There was one delivered to the police department, but that one is not up and running yet because they're gonna like work with facilities to like install it into the ground, like drill it in. So it's still just the fire department, and then once the police departments is up and running, I'll do like a bunch of outreach about the new medication kiosk and going over how to use the kiosk, the Sharps kiosk. So all of our kiosks, a bunch of education and outreach, like a campaign about that a little bit. So
Great.
No, that's good.
I have a question about number 5.
oh yeah.
I'm sorry, are you done or
Oh, yeah,
until we go? So number 5, can you just say something about that? That's re-enrolling the town in Medicare in order to receive Medicare reimbursement for
Yeah, so
vaccinations?
I know I've said this before, but the way we purchase flu vaccines is from the reimbursement for administering the flu vaccine. So we don't like make money off of administering the flu vaccine. We have to get the reimbursements. That's how we purchase it for next year. So, but you have to re-enroll in Medicare every 5 years. So so every 5 years, the town has to re-enroll, and we re-enroll as a vaccine program. So it's not as in depth like a doctor might have to do or something, but it just so oh sorry, someone's at the door. It's just so sorry, I'll be right back.
Sorry, no. I can go on to mine for now. Would you want me to do that?
Yeah.
Just to fill in some time here. Alrighty, so,
You all have the FDA grant.
yes, no, it was a big part of what we've been working on because our deadline is coming up, so we needed to work with our contractor to get that taken care of. And again, as Maurice was, talking about having some additional policies and programs that sort of come about from this, right? So like we do what we do and we don't really have a lot written down. So going through the standardization process really forces that hand. And even if you don't go through the standard, you can still adopt some of those policies and procedures until such time as you do go through that particular standard, that review of that particular standard. So we did a lot of, I think, learning over the past several months and working with Mogen, and they've been super helpful. And we're on the brink, I think, just of getting our final after we go through the process of developing them, then they have to go through an audit. So we have to have a third party audit our work that we've done.
Wow.
Then we submit it to FDA and then we get sort of the sign off from them that we've, checked that box for those couple of standards. So we hope to have that standard 3 and 5 checked off this year. So that's
Awesome.
exciting. Yeah, that'll be really exciting. But again, it was like a really good process for us to go through, like, and Maurice and I, and like kind of hearing from, from Mogen and what they're experiencing in the field. And that's gonna help develop our training program. It's gonna help develop our future fee schedule, how we do our, and as we've talked about before, our risk-based inspectional program, which we currently have in place now, but we're not capturing the appropriate fees necessarily for the work that's done, and, related to each type of food establishment that we have in time, so in town. So you'll see that coming from us in the coming months, because that's gonna be because we've done outside of the food program, we've done a review of all of our fees. As we've done in the past, as you know, we've asked the board to go through this, because it is your fee schedule. We provide you with the evaluation. So we've done a deeper dive into the evaluation of the amount of time it actually takes us to
Oh,
do
yeah.
the permitting and the
Right.
program management. So, which, was eye-opening, and we'll be again rolling that out to you guys in the coming months. Let's go with this crazy computer tonight. And so, we met with staff, Jackie and I met with, and with Susan, met with, and some of our colleagues on gun violence prevention, met with Representative Ken Gordon to discuss this legislation that's been pending, before both chambers in the legislature. And it's relative to messaging to, families and caregivers of school-age children within the Commonwealth, annually, by a requirement for the superintendents of the school districts to message one time annually, a message about gun violence prevention or gun safety. It's sort of, the first time that something like this has ever been proposed. We're learning a lot, but it seems like this should be pretty simple to do. But I guess the way that the legislation is written, it sort of dictates that DESI would put forward the language and then sort of require the superintendents and the school districts to do it. And I think there's a little bit of headbutting from that perspective between the various organizations and who can tell what to do what. We're very fortunate in Bedford that we have a really great relationship with our superintendent. And we were already on the path to doing this when this legislation came out.
Right.
So he's afforded us space in his time, in his newsletter, that we put, we can put forward some messaging several times a year, and he'll distribute that for us. He's been a very good supporter and proponent of that. So again, we'll have it here in Bedford, whether it passes, statewide. But it was kind of interesting to hear the take on it and how people are like the sort of I think potential roadblocks to it, because even our other advocate friends were like, okay, well, we'll prepare the messaging. Like, the messaging is not as long as the messaging is there, why can't you just send it out? But making the connections for that to happen, I guess, is a little bit
I don't know if anybody's.
interesting or troubling
In
at
the
the same
Globe
time.
this morning, an article about, based on recent Supreme Court decisions about, guns, that, there are people in the state challenging the fact that 18-year-olds, you have to be 21 to purchase a handgun in Massachusetts. And there's a challenge now whether that could be lowered to 18.
Yeah.
So this becomes even more urgent, I think,
Yeah.
in terms about getting out.
And there's a Supreme Court case too around like the gun possession or firearm possession for individuals who are known drug users or
Yes.
substance users
So
or
there's a lot
abusers. So
coming
there's a
up.
lot of really
Yeah.
interesting cases.
Yeah.
Coming.
But
right.
what I found interesting in the meeting with Representative Gordon was understanding what the legislature can and can't do.
Mhm.
And, one of the big potential obstacles is who writes the messaging that
Yes.
DESI then pushes out, and can they mandate that the schools send it? Or are they just putting it on like a shelf that school districts that want to can pull from?
Yeah, a library of information. So we then talked about, okay, well, if this can't happen legislatively, what can we still do from a grassroots
Yeah,
perspective?
right.
Well, similar to like what we would do to what we've done from a public health perspective. Like, I did a whole program about gun violence prevention, and I did our program with my colleague
Right.
Kathleen, and we did, made a presentation to MHOA. Well, we could go to the superintendent's conference perhaps, right? And
Yes.
go and have a
Yeah.
table there, or do a
Yes.
poster session there, and maybe gonna get that information. Like, here's something that you can have like very
Very
easily,
easy.
if this is
Yep.
like, you know, something that's of
Yeah.
interest in your community. So we'll talk a little bit about that. That
Yeah.
takes a little bit, and also, so there's the superintendent's annual conferences, and my uncle was the superintendent, so I know it happens down the Cape, or it was happening down the Cape every year. But there's also a school committee conference, similar to like when you folks go to the
Yes.
MAHB trainings,
Right.
they have a similar, you know, gathering as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to get the messaging out there,
Yes.
or at least to make people aware of this as an option for, you know, something that they can participate in as far as a really robust public health messaging, you know, important.
And
public-
Heidi said our colleagues, there are other organizations who put forth the bill to the legislature. We, as part of the Bedford Safe campaign, wrote a letter in support of that.
Right.
But it's not our bill, so
Yes.
we're letting them work through the next steps.
So, yeah. We are expanding our hours with Edinburgh for in-office therapy, in-office therapy hours available. We're going up to, we have 24 hours currently with Ainsley. On April 1st, we're going up to 32 hours, and then on 7/1, we're gonna have a full-time
Wow.
therapist in the office. So really, really, really excited about that. They've been fantastic to work with. We're also looking at an opportunity to work with them on our jail diversion program. That's run through the police department, but it will actually be funneled through our department at some point. We're hoping in the future. There's grant funding for that. We have we're gonna be utilizing some additional opioid funds, some of the opioid funds to pay for the additional therapy hours. We will be transitioning away from Interface this year. That's been something that we've been utilizing for several years
Yeah.
now, when we didn't have access to a lot of resources. There's a lot of Interface-like resources available out there now, apps and other services free for pay and, pay for, with a fee attached to them. We have not been seeing, the number of referrals that we did in the early days, so we're not getting the bang for our buck, so to
Right.
speak. You know, for the amount of money that we provide, that we put into that every year, that's just we're not getting the ROI on that. But, I will say that that's a service that we share with the schools, and they were in favor of converting the funding to pay for additional therapy hours here,
Wonderful.
because they're doing some referrals
Okay.
from the schools, for some of the kiddos at BPS. So yeah, it seems to be a very good symbiotic relationship, and we love our therapy provider, so we're really excited about the expansion of that service, and I think the community will appreciate that as well too.
And it's a local group, which is good.
Yeah, exactly. So if it can't happen here, if there, happens to end up having a wait list or whatever, they're committed to being able to see people down the street at their clinic on Burlington Road, so. Exactly.
Oh, that's great.
Had a couple of grant applications that I worked on over the past couple weeks, food bank oriented. So keeping our fingers crossed on those, and responded to a residents' inquiry about beaver deceivers. It always doesn't interest me so much. I love to talk about it though, so it's really funny that when people call and ask about it, I'm like, okay, well, you piqued my interest today. I'll take a break from my grants and we'll talk about how they work and how many we have in town. So it's kind of interesting. The town does have some, and the private properties do utilize them as well. And in an effort to to not have to send the beaver to the beaver farm, it's an
Yes.
opportunity to just move him to a location that will be more agreeable for everybody. We did apply to host a health intern this summer, and we were granted our request.
Yay.
So we love that, because that comes with funding, and we love to, we love when people work for free, but we always like to be able to pay people for the great work that they're doing. And it is, again, another symbiotic scenario. They get a situation where they get the experience,
Oh, they get
a lot of mentorship,
Yeah.
but we have a really robust programs of talking about Jackie's the chick program. I think she's gonna do this summer. A lot of opportunity for this individual to do like one-on-one, like in-person educational sessions, do some website work with us, and some some policy development and
No,
stuff.
that's good.
So that'll be really, really great. They started very early, and I don't think they had a big uptake on it. I think people are really, I think local health departments are strapped, and there's just like there weren't a lot of people that took them up on the offer this year. It is time intensive, right? You do have to provide quite a bit of mentorship and time and space and equipment and such. we have familiarity with it and we've had such
Right.
great success with it that it was, it was
The
easy for
feedback
us.
is good.
The payback is real, and we've had our folks come back time and again, right? I mean,
Yeah.
come back and, put hours in on their school subsequent school vacation time, summer times, and they've gone on to do really great things in public health, so that's really encouraging for us
Yeah.
as well too.
Wonderful.
I did want to take a minute to acknowledge the fact that one of our longtime CERT members, Richard Golombetsky, passed away, a few weeks ago. He was really great in working with us through, the early days of CERT, our flu clinics, all during COVID as well. Came out for very many activities, Bedford Day, and of course the migrant shelter response, which we needed so much help with, as did many of our CERT volunteers, but we're sad to hear of his passing, and we're really grateful for the years of service that he provided to us.
Most definitely.
And not just at the health department, but through other departments in town as well. And then the last thing I'll mention, before I'll take some questions from you guys, is that I did meet with our friend Don Corey, who
yeah,
has
well,
been
that's
involved in
perfect.
so many different,
Yeah.
committees and organizations within the community. And always been like a nice resource to me because of his background as a licensed site professional from a hazardous, materials perspective and spills and stuff within the community, and his knowledge of that and on the RABs. But he's also been the long time community representative on the VA, at the VA on their institutional animal care use committee, the IACUC.
Yes.
So that's about research?
So they do Alzheimer's research at the
Oh,
VA,
yes.
as we all know, and
Yeah.
they have an animal facility there that
Yes.
is part of that,
Yeah.
you cannot do science without this, some
Right.
people say you can, but I mean, for the most part, folks are, engaged, still scientists are engaged in the use of animals. And they have, I believe it's just rodents there currently. Sometimes they have them on site and other times they're off site. But they're doing a lot of really active research there. And as a result, and as a requirement of the
Yeah.
funding that they receive for that work, they're required to have this. It's like our institutional biosafety committees for the biosafety stuff. This is just for the animal care units. So there was one lab many moons ago, I forget what it was, Celgene, it was Celgene. They had an animal care facility there, and they have an ICO. We weren't involved in it.
Yeah.
Right.
But as we didn't have to be, and we don't have any regulatory purview over the animal
Right,
care.
right, that's right.
But Don just came to me, I don't know, just because I'm the health person, and he was like, well, maybe you could find someone to sit on this committee. So I'm putting it out to the universe here today to talk about, and to the board.
So what do they do?
So they
just have-
meet, right, they meet at least twice annually, but it might be upwards of like 8 times annually, 8 or 10 times annually, mostly by Zoom. At least once a year, they do an inspection of the facility.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity really to ensure that they're doing a good job in caring for the animals that are doing this, that are part of this like amazing research, right?
Okay.
So it's like,
They have protocols.
Twofold.
Okay.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe-
I was involved as biosafety
Yeah.
officer over the years, looking at some of their protocols,
Okay.
to make sure that they were handling drugs correctly and,
Okay.
things
Alright.
like that,
Interesting.
or
Alright.
anything that came from
So it's
So-
similar to what we do by having the, for biosafety.
IBC.
Yeah, an IBC
Yeah.
meeting, but it's for
Kind of,
animals.
I mean, but
It's an
right.
external person coming in.
Yeah,
So they need a Bedford resident to be,
preferring that they are like just a person that might be interested in this. You don't have to have any special background, any special
Really?
knowledge of
Yeah.
animals. Similar to what our town, in
Right.
accordance with our biosafety regulation, we happen to have people that have that interest and that
Right.
knowledge. But for the IACUC, and even for ours, you don't have to have that. Like as a traditional IBC or a traditional IACUC member in this capacity, as the community representative,
You're just community.
you are,
representative.
yeah, and because you're going to ask the questions that a layperson would ask.
Okay.
And that a community member would ask, like, are there gonna be mice running all over our community? Are there gonna be, whatever, if somebody gets
You lock the
infected,
doors,
blah, blah, blah,
your
exactly.
sleeps,
Yeah.
yes, on the door.
Sleeps on the door, exactly, so I think, and Don, I think, we could cast a wider net, I think, through bias, like kind of publicizing this,
Yeah.
or if you, in talking
Yes.
with folks, or if a board member was interested in doing it. I just am putting it out there and
Okay.
wondering, please reach out to me, because they are they do meet, as I said, quite regularly, and they would be interested in
I
having.
had no idea.
Oh.
And you get to go to the VA facility, you get to see the light, you get to see the building, I mean, it's kind of like, you do get to engage a little bit more on that kind of like mystery facility that people don't normally go to, right, on a regular basis. It's down the street there, it's Springs
Yeah.
Road, but
Okay.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly.
Nice, okay,
So,
thank you.
I'll end there. If anybody has any, and if anybody has any other questions for me on other items
Just the
that I
last,
didn't
the very
touch.
last.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I did need to talk on that. Speaking of that. So our Kelly Kalo, she has been, yeah, she, as you know, she's our regional, the regional coordinator for Great Meadows, Public Health, Partnership. And she's an agent for the board as a result of her engagement here. She was in our office and covering for us for many months recently. She has is leaving her position with the region and taking the health director position at the town of Hartford.
Oh, because of that
nice.
retired.
So yes, Linda, our longtime colleague, Linda Fantasia retired. Really, really great proponent of Linda was of emergency preparedness and tick-borne illness, and we sat on many committees with her. I've worked with her for many years, going way back to when I used to do environmental consulting. Like I
Yes.
worked on
Yeah,
the gas station Daisy's that was downtown. That was one of my sites, right? And Linda was super helpful to me in giving me environmental information,
she's
information
great.
about the wells and
Yeah.
everything. So she is going to be retiring, and Kelly will be taking her position. So I
Oh,
couldn't be
wonderful.
happier. It's like a great,
Yes.
I'm happy for Linda, but very happy that we're gonna have our colleague Kelly, and she's still in our region.
yes.
So we'll
Yeah.
still have some continuity
That's good.
there and
But will,
opportunity.
You have to
will
hire
her
new-
position be?
And we will, exactly, so
Good.
that position is they're just reviewing the job description now. I imagine that position to be posted shortly.
Good.
She is, because the town of Sudbury is our fiscal agent, that's where all the regional staff is employed through, so it'll be a posting through the town of Sudbury, but once we have the posting, we'll be able to share it. And I know our town and HR has been really good about posting the regional
Any
position.
internal candidates that you're aware
I
of that
don't-
know, like in the?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
believe so. I don't
Okay.
believe so. But I do also know that there's been quite a few retirements that have happened. So if,
Yeah.
retired health directors are kind of staying in the area,
Exactly.
They might like.
they
that,
might
yeah.
be interested. It might be hard because if you're retired, you're still an employee of the town of Sudbury. So we're kind of looking at, I was asking them, can the position be a contracted position instead of an employment position? Because you
Right.
might be able to pull more people in. So
Right.
Okay.
we'll look into, I think that, there's a few little
Good for
options
her.
there. Good for
Yeah.
her, good,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wrote down good for Kelly.
Good.
for
Yeah.
us.
Just a logistical question
Yeah.
on that. You're having, the invoices for the MAB meeting go to Kelly?
She's working until the end of the month, yes, she'll be
Okay.
there till the end of the month,
So
and
and
then,
register soon.
yeah, so register soon, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
On your report, I think it is. Number 6, just curious. What kind of SOP do we have with Central Middlesex MRC? Do we pull them in, or is it how
It's-
they pull us?
It's
in?
not with them, it is the SOP for the regional group, for the MRC. It's the MRC's SOP.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not how
It's our
Bedford and.
input, no, it's our input as a member of the MRC.
Got it.
It's our input into it.
Okay.
So Jackie's back with
Jackie's
us.
back.
Oh, yeah, Jackie, you wanna continue yours?
Do you remember where you left off?
I think just the Medicare.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, so that's just we have to re-enroll every 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's just to update information. So like for example, I wasn't here 5 years ago, so just putting my information in, just who they can contact and who just it's great to work with because if you have a question you're supposed to mail them, they don't have a phone number there, so it's been great fun. But we're getting there. So does that answer your question? Sorry, I forget where I was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I just was wondered what it was, why it's coming up, but it's just a normal 5-year cycle, so
Exactly, yeah.
it's fine. Did you wanna quickly just go over your communicable disease?
Yeah, sure.
table?
Pretty nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
This month just 51 flu cases and 27 COVID. So flu's gone down. 24 cases less than last month. Or well, December because I'm doing January's. And then COVID's pretty much the same, 31 and then 27. So
Yeah.
nothing crazy. And then the 2 Lyme, but
Yeah, the line, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's something that I reported in my report too, about the results of our tick testing
Oh, yeah,
program.
yeah.
Just to kind of jump to piggyback with Jackie there.
Yeah.
And we did get our annual report from them. So 15 residents partook of that, took, you know, of the opportunity. It's subsidized now. It's not free. In the early days, it was free.
Yeah.
So I think that might be a little bit of a barrier to someone. It's still just $20, but again, 20 can be, you know, for a tick. But, you know, it's nothing really wild and crazy with that. You know, we see that most of the ticks that were found in the region did have Lyme, followed by babesiosis and anaplasmosis. So
Yeah.
what we've
Yeah.
sort of, yeah.
And at least one that I know had nothing because
That
we
was you.
used it.
There you go.
That's good.
But just the comfort level
Oh,
of,
yeah,
we had the results within like 2 or 3 days.
Okay,
awesome.
It was amazing.
To know whether you needed to go to your doc to get a prophylactic
Yeah.
antibiotic or take more further action or whatever, to know that it was
Yeah.
negative.
okay, great.
There you go. So we do still have vouchers available for that. I can't remember, Jackie, several hundred, right? I mean, from region wide.
It's like 300
Um,
something.
Okay, so we'll promote that as part of
Oh,
our
yes,
new
yeah.
outreach on our, well, and we already have it on our website, but we'll pull that into any messaging that goes out over the next month or so.
Yeah, no, that's
Any,
important.
any updates on the opioid settlement, survey that was done? and
Yeah,
all
we will
that?
be here, that was going to be rolled out like, again, within the next month or so. I think we have a meeting next week where we'll see the preliminary data.
Oh,
And then
okay,
she'll
good.
start scheduling, we'll have some nice presentations, but by community, by region, and then Olivia will come and do a presentation for us
That's
on what
good.
the findings.
Because I don't know if it's appropriate for me to bring it up right now, but I had a question from a resident about that.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I?
I think so, sure.
So, they're, working, with the middle school administration and, actually, this is, the president of the PTO of the Parent Teachers Organization for the middle school. And she told me, she just contacted me and she talked about that they're talking about, or they wondered, could they use any of the opioid funds to bring in speakers, like to the middle school?
We've talked with the schools about that, so
Okay.
that's something we've definitely coordinated through the school departments on, and they can reach out to me directly.
Okay, great,
Yeah,
great,
yeah, yeah.
great, thank you. I just,
Do you think in April, you guys could give us a little bit of an insight in our meeting then?
Yeah, provided I have data back from
Yeah.
them. I mean, I'm envisioning it's gonna happen. I think the meeting with the group is next week. Oh, no, it's on, it's on March. It's on March 17th. It's on St. Patrick's Day. I distinctly remember that that's when our meeting is. So, yeah, so by April, I'll have at least some preliminary information to report out.
Okay,
And again, it's really about like, so the findings, the outcome and the reporting that we're doing is how the community has told us they want the money spent.
Right.
yes, yes.
I think
And
Olivia's
then,
coming
you
in
know, from
April.
what's that?
I think Olivia's coming to our April Board of Health meeting,
Do
actually.
we have her on the docket already?
She emailed back saying she can come,
She can
so
come? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So then she'll be ready to present for sure.
That's
Great.
really good, thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
That's really good to hear.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Really great reports.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye,
thank
Marissa.
you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jackie.
All right, I guess, are we ready to dive into
Yeah.
this?
Do we have any liaison?
Oh, I always forget, I apologize. Yes, Board of Health liaison reports, any liaison reports? People wanna report on?
Nothing significant, so.
the school start time saga continues, but I mean, we're not
Yeah.
really involved anymore.
Right,
But, you know,
I
there
know.
certainly looks like they're A and B option and not on the table and they're looking for others, so it will continue,
Yeah,
you know, the latest, so that's all.
yeah. I know we have an IBC coming up at the end of the month, I think, for Oxford, right?
Yeah, Oxford, Oxford, no, is it Oxford?
Anyway.
Yeah.
March 28th.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, we have that, and I just got another one. I reached out to Anne about it too. Obsidian, I think, is coming up as well. So yeah, we've got Farm Essential, whatever. Yes, we have a couple that are coming up.
mhm.
So this year, as we go through them, that's when we're gonna start making the determination as to whether they're gonna be remain
Right.
annual, kind of just get on
Yes.
a better schedule as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Because there is that option, if the IBC agrees that they can go.
Every
2
year,
years,
if
yeah.
they, you know, they really have a
Yep.
low.
And from a Bedford Safe campaign, we're gonna be meeting and coming up with a schedule for communications, messaging, and a buyback events.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So the three of us will be meeting with.
Oh,
Bedford safety and gun
John.
violence prevention.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jackie will join us. right?
Yes.
Yes.
So it'll be great,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
And it ties in well with the work you and I had done on communication and messaging.
Yes.
And also what Jackie brought up earlier about text, the same thing, it's just continuing to build on the messaging and communications
Right.
capabilities.
And maybe, this is a good, you just spur my, and maybe I can ask you this, Heidi. So I think we're still waiting for MCAC maybe to follow up on some of the questions we had with Dr. Huda.
For Dr. Huda, yeah, so yeah, I'm hoping that this is March, so there'll be a meeting this month. I think it's probably, this is the first week, it's usually the second or third week of the month on a Thursday, so. And we'll see if it's on the agenda, if it made the agenda, you know, we did request to see if we could put
right.
forward a request for some funding.
Right, yeah, for
So-
more air samples.
Because there was some, the treasurer had indicated that there might be some
Yeah.
residual funding available. Although, you know, it's a fiscal year kind of scenario, so I don't know if the funding can carry over from fiscal year to fiscal year, so I think it can. I tend to remember that, because some of these projects are just so big that they're doing around airports, it's not like you can just like finish it up within a few months.
Right,
So, but I'll be able to report back probably at the April meeting then on that.
great, thank you. Any other liaison reports or anything to do with the Board of Health? That's what,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just. Okay, so let's see, I wanted to ask. Yeah, I didn't
Can we
think,
go by page numbers? Cause
Yeah.
my first one's on page 7.
oh, it is, okay, good. All right, yes, this is under the capital expenditure committee report. Is that all right if everybody, we start there?
Yep.
Okay, go for it, which one?
The town common, I know in the past, we have made a statement, is there anything we need to do with this? I didn't think we did. But it's all about, I think Anita, you went to the walkthrough.
Walkthrough, but
I
where, I
didn't-
don't see where it's.
I don't see it on page
Yeah, I don't
seven.
see it on here.
Page 7.
I mean, it comes up later, I thought it was under
It's-
community
it's
preservation.
the
It's
second
20,
item.
yeah,
This
it's
is
2702,
Yeah,
Oh, for the sidewalks.
it's the very last sentence of that.
yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay. Goodness
Uh,
there, okay.
I didn't think we needed to do anything
No.
at the meeting, but I just wanted to
Right,
double
yeah.
check.
No, cause
And
I,
perhaps if it gets held, there may be an opportunity for a board member to stand up and make a statement about, I mean, reminding folks. If you're so inclined, it's, I mean, that's
yeah, I
the
mean, there's so much
wouldn't-
data out there about how sidewalks.
sidewalks, and then also, I mean, this is related to the bus stop shelter as well, is this
Right.
same is the same,
Well, it's the same project,
But
but
they're
that
not
comes
covered
later
separate
for
thing.
community
This
preservation
is,
funds.
yeah, this is sidewalk, around the
Pedestrian safety
common and
improvements.
pedestrian safety.
okay. Well,
That's where this
I mean-
one.
okay, so you haven't really made a statement
So
on this before.
I don't know, the only thing I don't know, I didn't know that a decision had been made about doing sidewalk on the
Maple
the
Street.
far side of Maple Street.
I believe not, so I can just relay a little information, because I happen to be on, First Parish Board.
Yeah.
And we got a report from Sarah Dora, who's
Yeah.
also, you know, heavily working with the whole committee
Yeah.
and DPW and everything, and so it's about money,
I know.
pretty much. So, right now, they said that they're only gonna put forward to put sidewalks around the perimeter, the other 3 sides, but not Maple Street.
Well, I think we maybe can say something about that potentially, because from my driving around, you know, as people come down School Way and then the other street and turning, and there are kids walking there sometimes as they leave the high
Cause there is
school,
a
the middle
sidewalk
school.
on the other side.
On
of
the other
Maple.
side, I know, but it's just, there is on the other side, but I just think it's you're gonna do the whole thing.
Yeah.
But on School Way, there's a sidewalk on both sides, so you get to the, and you
Oh,
get to
yeah,
that
and it's
intersection,
on.
and
there's
if you're
not.
gonna continue on to South Road, you have to cross at
Yeah.
that really busy intersection.
that-
Oh,
But I'm not sure if we're advocating for them to do a sidewalk, this is the time to tell them they should do an extra
Right, that's what
side.
I'm just saying, I don't know.
Because it's not like we can make a motion to amend this. We can either support it or not. We can't change what
Right.
they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, the plan and the funding that's included here is
Oh,
for,
I see.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
this
too
isn't
bad.
the time. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
too bad. I agree.
Okay.
But if it is held and any
Right.
of us is so inclined, we
Right,
can just
that's
say
it.
the importance of
Right.
sidewalks.
Yes.
so when it would have been important to go then during,
The walkthrough,
or during the discussions on this particular proposal,
correct.
right? Is this?
I'm not sure the walkthrough just.
Is this
the
capital?
No,
people
I
ask
talked,
questions.
I know,
Is this
I
capital?
talked about it at least 3 times during the walkthrough.
Yeah.
Because my concern was that
Yeah, it's capital.
one of the things too was trying to make, handicapped accessible parking on all sides.
Yeah.
And you kind of need to be able to get in and out of your car.
Yes,
with sidewalk.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. It is hard there. It is very
Yeah,
hard.
it's very hard.
So,
That sidewalk there on that far end, yeah.
but I think this one, if it is held and
Oh, we
there's
should-
challenges, the key thing is the importance of sidewalks.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's. My next one's not till page 13, so someone else can go.
So for me, I didn't get anything until, what did you say? Yeah, the community preservation. But actually, I was wondering about the revolving fund on page
13.
13.
Yeah,
Yeah, because the Board of Health revolving fund,
yeah,
so it says that it's not to exceed the expenditure limit of $45,000. But the balance is $191,000.
yeah, that balance is incorrect, and so I've informed the town manager of that.
Good.
There have been 2 erroneous deposits, although I'm very happy to take them. There have been 2 erroneous deposits, and I think they're Medicare, like anything that comes through from like, is it the CMS, like that's Medicare related, which can be through enterprise, the ambulance fund, the schools, like there's a lot of different departments that have that. So oftentimes when they come through as just a, but when we get notice of them, when we get the email notice of them, we immediately forward the email to finance and say, this amount is coming through, you know, by electronic transfer. Please deposit into this account, whatever the account
Yes.
might be, right? So, I don't know that every other department does that. So when they kind of know, oh, these usually go to the health department, I think these 2 deposits happen to just make it into our accounts.
Okay.
So we have made them well aware of it. It has not been rectified before, it was not rectified before they pulled the numbers for this
Will
particular.
they make a correction? A town?
I don't know if this is the final warrant, so
No, it's not.
oh, it's not. So I've informed Matt about it. So
Okay.
hopefully the finance can get on it and make those changes and get the
Okay.
monies to the right parties.
Yeah,
How far off do you think it is?
Oh, it's $90,000 off.
Oh, okay, so it should be.
It's a lot.
100,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's $140,000. Yeah.
Okay.
We're only at like 56,000 in our actual.
Okay, so you're
budget.
just slightly.
And money
It's all
in and out.
cycle, it's all
Oh,
cycle.
it's money in and out, exactly, every
Yeah,
year, money in and
okay.
out, exactly. We
Yeah,
just have
so
to make sure
it's-
we don't spend more than 45,000 every
Okay.
year. We have got a little bit of extra money during the COVID years because we weren't paying for the vaccine or. But we didn't have to pay for the vaccine, so that wasn't money back and forth, but we were able to charge for the administration.
Okay,
So we had a little bit of monies that, you know, we're able to kind of build up in the account for that. But we use those for other, we've expanded the use of the fund to be more than just paying for flu clinics. We do it for other health programming. So we can use it for other things,
okay.
but we keep it in there to pay for the vaccination program.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so, the warrant articles are frozen, so they're the final, but the verbiage under.
They'll get
each
the
is
final
still
numbers and such, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good, so.
That and the wording throughout is still subject to change until
Okay.
next week's meeting by the select board.
So we have a department head meeting tomorrow, I'll ask,
Yeah.
I'll ask.
All right, you wanna bring up the next one?
Also on
Down
page 13, number 2 and number 6, number 2 under
Well, is it-
project.
No, I'm sorry, under the revolving funds,
The other one, those are,
4537, the biosafety permits.
right,
There's
that's just
nothing
in and
there.
out.
Cause that's money in and out, so we took all the permit money in
Yeah.
and then we paid out our contractor. That's just
Oh,
that's
okay.
it's true revolving
True
in and out,
revolving,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
So yeah, that permit renewal process is ongoing right now, so we'll start to, all of the monies 850 per institution, per facility comes in, and then that money goes out to Rebecca. That is a number
Yeah.
though that we are going to be changing on our fee schedule coming up,
Correct.
just so you know.
Yep. Great, okay, now you wanna jump in, so.
Sorry, under community preservation, just the life skills management program, again, if that gets held, that is something that, I know is important from a health and human services
Mhm.
standpoint.
Yep, that's the financial literacy that,
Yeah,
we expanded, the program that we expanded from just the housing, it was just being operated and run through residents of the housing authority. Last year, we expanded it to be any low income resident within Bedford Village. And now it's expanded beyond the community because we have, we're trying to build and garner the interest in there. It's a youth and family services thing.
So that's what I
Of
wonder,
interest,
why
yeah.
somebody from the Youth and Family Services Committee should get up and speak to it?
Yeah,
That
they
isn't really
could,
our
yeah.
purview.
They could, so I have a meeting with
I'm
them.
up there.
She's on
Okay.
there.
All right,
Youth
good.
and
Yeah, I
family.
plan to bring it up to them, I have a meeting with them next Thursday, with the Youth and Family
Okay.
Services Committee
Yeah,
next week,
so,
bring
yeah,
that
I
up
think
to
that
them.
would be more appropriate.
Yeah, I guess I was reading it,
Yes.
so with both hats on.
Right, yeah.
And then the number 6, just a question for the athletic field, fencing rehab. Are they, for any new,
It says on the next
Fences.
thing,
are they doing the tick barrier?
I don't know if where they're putting it requires it, so that's something I don't know, I don't know. the
Okay,
answer
they're
to that.
putting it. Multiple baseball, it's on, page 14, number 5. Focus on page field, E field, A field.
Yeah. Like page, I don't know, I'd have to look into that and ask the field.
A little segue, since we're on athletic fields, I just realized with the new track and the whole Saturday, the turf field and everything like that. Didn't we require, wasn't part of the vote that they required that they put the sign up that we asked about the heat in the summertime? Remember, there was a safety sign that we wanted put up? And I thought that was part of our presentation, our statement
Was that?
against it about the turf fields, that if they're gonna go ahead with it, there were concerns about the temperature.
Mhm.
There were concerns, and we had wording from the
Did they
mass.
agree to that?
You know,
explicitly?
I thought that was part of it, that when they did the vote, that,
I
should
think
go back.
so.
yeah. Let me see what I can find out about that, but I think. I
that'd be a
remember,
good follow-up.
I can ask.
cause cause it was about, remember we said the heat of it would just go up in the summer and that there should be a warning, also about children, there was a.
I'll have to go back and
Well,
look
our
at
statement, I'll
look at our statement, yeah.
Yeah. Right now, there's no heat.
I know. But it's coming, we're all
It's
counting on
coming.
it coming, we're hopeful.
But yeah, if you can find out about number 5, because if that gets held as well.
Yeah.
I think tick barriers would be something we can mention.
Okay. You mean number 6, not number 5, right? Just give each
And
family.
you know what? That's a typo. On page 3, it's number 6. And on page 14, it's number 5. There's 2 number 1.
Two number ones.
Okay, I'm just,
They're gonna clean this up.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
no, that's all right.
And then the last one, which is number 16, which is really number 17, is the town common rehab.
Yes,
And that is,
right.
again, to what our,
Right,
to make it accessible on the sidewalks and all that other.
yeah, yeah.
And I
that's where
think
the
this
bus
is
stop
where
was.
yeah,
But also, I mean, it's so important to, I mean, if anybody like holds these or whatever, the thing is, this is money out of a fund that
Right,
special town meeting voted to
let them do it,
fund.
fine, yes,
So,
make those
it
decisions,
would
right,
be,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no, I agree.
okay, great. Okay, moving on to fiscal year 2027. Any capital projects planned stuff that you have to be aware of? They look kind of standard to me.
And really so seemed like a good idea.
Yeah,
You just like, replacement of an ambulance, seems
Yeah.
like a good
That
idea.
seems like a very good idea.
Yeah, I didn't have anything till page 30.
Like the Friedman basketball.
Yes, I'm.
Interesting.
And
Hey,
here
Yeah.
we are.
yeah. So Article
All right.
26. So, maybe, a little update or whatever. So Susan and I attended the select board meeting, of the Blizzard, the Blizzard night.
Yeah, I watched.
And
it
so
too.
I ended up, I did speak,
Yeah.
because I just wanted to let
Yeah.
them know that, elected board, we are specialists. We should know who to hire
Right,
and that we have to
we want that.
have
input.
approve,
Yeah,
authority, not just consultant. And, yeah, so they were all on board with that and I was happy to see that this language is in here.
I'm still uncomfortable with the lack of,
Fire.
yeah,
I know, so I'm still in discussion, not discussions. I
Right,
reached out to
satisfied
Mike
with it.
Hugo, and to Cheryl Sabara,
Yeah.
from the MAHB, and I'm trying to say like a month ago, I actually had a phone call with Mike Hugo,
Mhm.
and he said he was gonna check into it, I haven't heard anything, so I need to call him just to see if there's any advice or, um, I mean, others have said, well, there's so many other laws to do with the fire and everything, but it's just weird. Yeah, it's not even mentioned.
well, I wasn't comfortable with Matt's explanation to me at the charter review committee
Right.
meeting, so, and he didn't repeat that at our meeting, so, it's not on the record anywhere, but that just,
Right, well, so I mean,
Well,
so we can talk about what our options are, right?
well, I don't know, maybe I don't understand the, town procedures for firing, and he's saying it's all based on HR stuff. And, that it would be strictly HR and,
But like I said at the meeting, my experience was that actually it's a combined effort. I mean, we had something going on where we had a grievance. And so that we had to have hearings and all kinds of things. This was like in the, I don't know, 2005 or something. This
Yeah.
was a long time ago. But the Board of Health was involved with that whole thing. So yes, it was handled by the HR department. About this grievance and all the rest, but we were intimately a part of it.
Mhm.
It wasn't like we were left out of it. So that's what I'm worried about, that we're kind of giving that away. According to, town council, apparently it's already,
this is kind of a moot point.
yeah, that's right, but it's weird, it's I'm trying to get out of Mike Hugo and Cheryl Sabara. What is the precedent, what does this citation from, was it 1979?
I'm not sure.
Atkins and, yeah.
Versus Ipswich.
Versus, yeah, versus Ipswich,
Mhm.
is that a wide held opinion
Yeah,
that a charter such as ours already provides for the town manager to have full hire and fire ability over all. So it all makes me uncomfortable, because I'm no lawyer. I feel like I can understand complex issues, but it's just befuddling to me. I don't like it, but so like I said, I mean, one thing that is important for us to know is if what we voted on. Let's see, when was that? That was. In
That
the
was
summer, September. Had approval for hire and fire.
Yeah, I guess I have a question going back to the example you gave. And you said there was a grievance. Did the Board of Health bring in HR or did HR bring in Board of Health?
That's a good question. I think. that, that the director brought in the HR.
So again, I think that's what this would support. If we had a problem, or if Heidi had a problem, not you personally, but you know, I mean, that we would have a conversation, there would be something on record, one party would bring in HR.
Mm-hmm.
And then HR would be ultimately the person or the organization that
Yeah.
did it.
Right,
So I hear
they're like
the,
random hearings and all this.
Yeah.
You know,
I
legal.
hear the concerns, but I think hiring was my big concern. And also supervising. And I think we have the verbiage now. That at least I wanted, but I am
So
confused.
explains to me the second paragraph about supervision.
Well, actually, if we can go in
Yeah.
order,
All right.
appointment authority. So I'm under 5-1B, appointment authority. Where I get confused, it says the appointment of department heads is subject to the approval of the select board. The appointment of such town officers is
That was a good.
is subject to the like. I think they have to clarify this, because sometimes
Town officers versus department
department
heads.
heads.
It almost
I
looks like
think
it
they
was a
need to,
typo.
yeah, I think they need to clarify that, but then, Maureen, was your question on supervise? Or on the hire?
My question is, I wanna know how the supervise, he's saying appoint, remove, and then it's saying that for appointment, that we would be involved in the appointment, right? The approval of the respective board, so it has nothing about supervision, it has nothing about, removal.
So this, yeah, supervision comes in the paragraph, the next paragraph.
So then, that's my question here, the manager's authority to supervise. Just say what you think that all that verbiage says. I wanna make sure I have a clear understanding.
Okay, well, starting with hiring,
No,
The-
the next one, the operational administrative supervision versus strategic and policy direction from elected boards.
okay, the town manager can, supervise the director of health and human service, excluding or anything that's covered in section
That's
7.1 or 7.4 or 7.5. So anything that is where we have the responsibility.
So nothing programmatic.
What do you mean?
So director of health is our agent.
Mhm.
We have a programmatic thing that we're asking the agent to, you
Right,
know, communicate
do.
about, to
Right.
do, to whatever.
right,
And town manager cannot interfere with that at all.
that's correct.
That's my understanding.
Okay, what if the town manager has a problem? In other words, I just wanna make sure
Yeah.
that, you know, that where's the, it
You
feels
wanna
fuzzy, it
promote,
feels
you
fuzzy.
wanna promote culling of deer in Bedford.
Yes,
And you wanna have people come in
yeah,
and regularly have a monthly conversation around deer culling in Bedford and how to get it to happen.
right. And the town manager's not so happy about that, whether pressure from police, DPW, whatever. And so my question has always been, where's the line here? It doesn't say in the state law 7 whatever, you know, that we can talk about deer culling, but you know, but so to me, this is fuzzy. And it seems like if we are directing our agent to pursue something, does it get formed into something operational? How does that get? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I
How can that
do,
be-
I also separate it a little differently in that Director of Health and Human Services is a role.
Mhm.
We could appoint anyone to be our agent. We happen to do we appoint the Director of Health and Human Services
Okay.
to be our agent. But our agent could be anyone.
Okay, so even just working with the Director of Health,
Yep,
who is our supporter and,
Yeah.
you know, gives us information and promotes programs or works on issues that we are asking he or her to work on, right? I just want to be very clear about what is it meant by operational and administrative supervision? Is that all referred to HR? Does the HR blanket cover that? You know, what does operational mean?
I'm trying to. you know,
Operational
I had the
supervision.
September,
To me, that would be operational supervision is operating what the director is working on. You know, how she's operating. And I just want to make sure that we're for perpetuity here,
yeah.
we're
no, and I
we're just
hear you.
covering our bases here.
What would you recommend we do? Because we have one more opportunity, which is Monday. Monday's meeting, because that's the close of the warrant. Or we can do something on the floor.
Well, what I wanna do is I wanna do the homework, and I apologize, I didn't do it, and see what we voted on before, because I know that Mike Hugo had chimed in that he thought that was a good strategy. In
What?
terms of,
What was it?
to pull out the supervision.
Okay, maybe I'm just being.
But I wanna I really
a
wanna
little paranoid.
make sure that,
If
you know, what.
my
we voted
read
on
of this
September,
matched what
What we had in
what we
September,
Okay.
that's what I thought.
Okay, so if everybody else is fine with the, you know, just hiring and supervision, it says nothing in here about evaluation, which is interesting. Yeah, right?
Well, that's.
I know, but that's,
Yeah.
how do you
Did that
supervise
come up?
somebody without evaluating?
No,
That
never came up.
Never came up, so it's.
Never
to
came
me,
up.
It's just, this is just a little messy, and I'm still stuck on. Susan, and maybe tell me if I'm being too picky about his response to me that time.
No, it was an unfortunate response.
It was an unfortunate response, and it colors how I'm looking at
No,
that.
I hear you.
And it makes me a little bit suspicious, you know,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
don't wanna be that way, I wanna be, you know, trusting, but that his response just, woo. Just like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you know, so,
And I looked at a number of towns. Some towns, the town manager has hire, supervise, and fire.
yeah,
Some, just like in this proposal where the library and the schools are carved out, health is carved out as well. There's no standard that I'm seeing across the state.
right.
Um,
And he wasn't able to share, also what I asked for was, policies. So I said, you know, what's your practice about a hiring committee? And he says, well, usually it's like two people from the board, and I was like,
I know there's
well,
no
like, where's
policy.
the policy here? Where's the
Yeah.
policy? And I said, well, what if the two people from the board? So say there's a 6-person hiring committee, so you've got the director of HR, and you've got town manager, and I don't know who else would be on, you know, in this, maybe COA director, you know, whatever, but the Board of Health feels differently about this person than the rest of the board. Is it a majority vote? And his answer was, well, no, that wouldn't be such good practice. It wouldn't really work well if I didn't choose someone that you were in favor of, but there's no policy written.
but this is subject to the approval of the respective boards. So there is no.
So what does exactly that, and then when I asked him what that meant, he said, well, there would be 2 people on the hiring committee.
No,
No.
this verbiage is different than what was at Charter
So
High.
this means that before, even if there were 2 of us on a hiring committee. Right, and the hiring committee unanimously agreed to put forward, or the vote was whatever, majority or whatever, to put forward person X. They would have to come to the Board of Health, and the whole Board of Health would have approval of that.
The whole Board of
Yes.
Health wouldn't have to approve, but a majority
Yeah.
would.
Yes, the majority would,
Right, the majority.
Majority would
have
But
to
they would
approve.
have to come to a Board of Health meeting,
yes.
decision not made by that hiring committee.
That's the way this is stated.
Okay,
just like it.
Doesn't
because
always
it
feel
says-
really clear, you know,
Yeah.
it's not spelled out very clearly.
It said, subject to the approval of the select board, and then it says for departments which an elected board provides policy direction, the appointment of such department heads by the town manager shall be made subject to the approval of the
Okay, all right,
respective
everyone
elected.
feels
So
okay.
that changed.
Okay,
Yes.
That is not what we
Okay.
had seen previously.
okay.
And, at
Can
the
any,
last meeting
Yeah.
that the three of us were at,
Yeah,
this wasn't there.
that's
Okay.
correct.
can anybody think of an example where there would be a removal sought by a town manager for something that wasn't strictly HR, you know, wasn't about hours worked? You know, to me, there's a great area about performance.
So just like what Mike Hugo gave that example, right, where the mayor was friends with, a business that the Board of Health wanted to shut down because of
Mhm.
environmental,
Right,
problems.
well, and that's the question I raised to Matt, not using that exact example,
Yeah,
but saying
that's-
something
yeah,
like
that's the
that. He said,
example.
well, you know, and his answer was basically that,
But other
was-
people had said in response to that, there are laws where the town manager can't, that would not be grounds for him to-
okay.
to fire,
All right.
because it would be.
So I
against
guess,
the
I
law.
guess that's what my question is, like, what are the grounds to object?
I cannot
to
cite that
a-
law, but that's what I've heard other
removal?
people
What are
say.
the grounds
Right,
that,
the
if we're
grounds
to
for
be able to
removal.
reject, to, object to removal, and
Yeah.
what weight would we have in a case like that, where we felt like it was more a matter of, related to policy or operation of the board, or reflective of the work that we wanted someone to do? You know, and it wasn't strictly about, was the health director compliant with vacation policy, and HR hadn't done something egregious in terms of, you know, sexual harassment, or so I can see all those HR things.
Yes.
But it's a little unclear to me about where the line is between the policy and the programmatic.
Yeah.
Especially since we're doing the evaluation, it's just not as clear as other institutions where I've been.
Yeah.
You know.
I guess what concerns me is Matt and Heidi separate, just,
We're just
in
saying
the
X and
future.
Y, right? Yeah.
X and Y, makes a hostile environment for that employee because they don't like the policy.
Right.
And so rather than
Right.
firing,
Oh, yeah.
the person leaves because
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
it's uncomfortable.
Right.
That is where it becomes more touchy, I think, for me.
So as long, I guess, I feel I can go with this, if I have some assurance going forward that, you know, even if we're not all on the board, that I would hope that a future board
right. Our
would object in whatever ways we could object, strenuously go to this select board, you know, I don't know, we hire a lawyer, we can't do that, but, you know, if we felt like there was an unfair situation, in terms of the health director, I'm just trying to have the health
Yeah.
directors back as the board that
Yeah, and I guess
evaluates.
I don't see that even the select board, if for a firing of someone. You know, like hiring, it says the select board has to approve them as well, but I don't see that in here for
And
firing.
Matt's only comments was, oh, it's so difficult in Massachusetts to fire somebody. You know, it's like, well, it can happen though, you know, the attempt can be made, but, all right, I just wanna be
Yeah.
protective, that's all.
That's
That's all,
all right, well, I
I-
still will reach out to Mike Hugo, I'll give him a call this week,
okay.
cause I just wanna double check.
Just see if in his instance, you know what I'm trying to say, maybe I'm not
Yes.
being very.
No, I
that
totally
you know,
understand,
that-
I totally
that,
understand.
That, and I think if we hadn't had that unfortunate response, then I would have not been questioning too much of this, but that just made my antenna go up a little bit.
Mhm.
So I guess I feel more comfortable now that the way this is phrased for hire, because it wasn't in the
Right.
last meeting
Okay,
that
yeah.
we spoke.
Right,
And I didn't think it was gonna be in this either, Heidi, so thank you for getting this copy of
Yes.
this.
Okay, okay.
yes,
Yeah,
that was so,
but, you know, like, one thing we can do if we want to is
have an amendment on,
have it, do amendment on the floor for fire.
yeah. So that
So-
is an option.
I think in some ways it's almost a moot point, because basically what Matt's saying and what the Paul Mortensen is saying is that Matt already has this ability.
I
Like,
know,
and it's like, why are we going through all this, you know? That he has the ability to hire, fire, and supervise, and so,
I know.
so
It-
somehow
it's the
taking it to
whole-
a
the
floor
whole-
fight doesn't feel like
I
it's worth
agree.
it, you know?
I know.
I'm just
So-
putting it out there.
I know,
It's
I
an
know,
option.
I know that's our option, but some clarity would be. So if Mike just felt like if he was comfortable with this in terms of that it was clear enough and protective
Right.
of us and our relationship with the health director, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, and it's not only, it's our relationship with the health director, and it's the relationships health, the Board of Health all have with the community.
Yeah,
We need to make sure that we have the right agent doing what we are elected.
Right, we
To
have
do
a
the-
responsibility,
Yeah,
we are
yeah.
the elected representatives, and I wanna hold on to that power that we have
right,
to.
exactly.
Can you send
impact.
this new?
Yes, I
version
will.
To Mike,
I will send it.
because this is
It is
different
new,
than
it is
from last
different, it
week.
is different.
Okay.
The supervision thing, I think is the same, but I wanted to double check that.
And there's definitely where I saw the difference between town officers
Oh, yeah, it looks like
and
it's a typo, I don't know.
it's like in there twice.
Yeah, it's in
it
there
is in there
twice,
twice.
it's a typo.
So here's my other question. If Mike comes back with something that he's not comfortable with in this, do we have an emergency meeting before town meeting? Because
could.
we
We could.
need to, right, to be able to
Sure.
vote on anything we're gonna say.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right, same,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, no, we've.
right.
Yeah,
It's
we're in
so
agreement.
important.
Okay.
I think
My
we're in
notes
agreement.
have check marks and question marks
Yes,
all
yeah.
over it.
Did you brought up the evaluate option portion of management?
I'm just always surprised that we do the whole thing, you know, and that, how did you get evaluated by Youth and Family Services? In the committee, nothing, so that's the only evaluation you have as Health and Human Services Director is what we write.
Correct.
Oh.
I meet with the town manager to review it,
Yes,
but
But-
I don't typically see.
but he
any additions
he doesn't talk to rec, council on aging, youth and family service to get feedback or anything like that. No, okay, well,
But he
But you're
does
also clear,
compensation.
but you're also clear about the fact that you're providing this from the health department.
from the health perspective, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, of course.
right. But it sounds like the other departments have no say about evaluating you, employees of the other department at all.
Employees don't have a say
Say about
about
evaluation.
evaluating
Yeah,
their,
okay.
their bosses or whatever, so.
Okay,
Their
all right.
managers.
All right,
Okay.
I'm not asking that big questions, I think it's great.
Yeah.
that we
I
do,
know,
but, you
no,
know,
I know.
I just, guys.
All right, anything else? I mean, we have of course, we have, our addition that we asked for, the bylaw. So,
36.
page 36, yeah. So this is what the language we had asked for. So Article 7.
You changed it to agents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's officer agent, yeah,
We added officer and agents.
yeah. Yeah. So that's good, I mean, I don't, you know. We made that request and as far as I know, it's never changed.
mm-hmm,
Right. The other page I have a question on is 43. Article 32.
mm-hmm.
Unregistered vehicles, yeah, this was interesting. So this is to have people, they can't. Have their
This is sort of
boarding.
to me, it almost looks like a response to the Kazarian situation with the.
No, I know people in town that have had, it's the thing about trailers, boats and vehicles not stored within the front yard or minimum side yards. There are people that get very upset with, like the view out I had a friend in town, they no longer live here, but, you know, they viewed, somebody complained because there was a boat store next to their driveway, but they didn't like that view across the street.
Mhm.
You know, so I think I don't know what they're basing this on, it's just a bylaw in our town, but.
Yeah, but with this, my read of this, it is taking something that only used to say unregistered.
Yeah.
Now it is also
Uninspected.
adding uninspected,
And
because if you didn't register it, that's one thing, but if you registered it but didn't inspect it,
It's
And
not
it's
on the,
sitting.
yeah, right, it's sitting, it's not.
So,
on
so
the-
they're also talking about cars then?
Yeah,
So, yeah, so the not inspected, so you can't have a car that doesn't have a current inspection sitting there.
so I just wondered from a health standpoint, if this would help with any of our nuisance cases or anything like that. Because if you do have vehicles or something that are either unregistered or uninspected, then they could be like with rodents.
Yeah, I mean,
live and
it
things
helps,
like
but
that.
if
It
it ever
doesn't.
gets to the court's
Yeah,
gonna
just
decide it
the-
ultimately anyway,
yeah,
because
yeah.
we've learned that, so.
Okay, so I just didn't
Yeah,
know.
it's better, this is better than what we had.
Okay. So again, if
It's
this
still not
gets
something we
help,
would enforce, this is something the code enforcement director enforces.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
okay, so no need for the Board of Health to make a statement in support of that.
I don't
No.
think so, I mean,
Okay.
if it's going downhill, I mean, maybe get up and say this is helpful from a. No, from maintenance of the, you know, the sanitary code, I mean, it
Right,
is a
right.
sanitary code
Yeah.
consideration. We would get, that's how we would get involved, that we would be enforcing the sanitary code from a,
Mhm.
what do they call it, the land outside the house.
Okay.
We would be,
Okay,
that's, in that case you're referring to, that's how we got, you know, it
Okay.
was not just nuisance, but it was housing code as well.
okay.
Good. All right, anything else in the weekend? I don't think so, I think it's good, the end there.
Okay.
All right, great, that was a good, discussion. Okay, so now we're going to number 6, proposed Bedford Board of Health regulation, feeding of wildlife prohibition discussion.
Yeah, so this is something that's come up, over time, you know, there's a couple of times annually, and it makes it difficult for us. And I think just sort of like in response to, and this is feeding of wildlife, right? So, and also in response to avian flu, when we had that, and we were considering, you know, the consideration or concerns with the Canada geese migration or wild bird, you know, wildfowl migration. You know, can certain wildlife, if they're perpetuated, cause, you know, damage? And I'm like, yes, I think they can, you know, if people are feeding turkeys or they're feeding,
Yeah.
you know, other wildlife, or, you know, it can actually, you know, perpetuate rodents or proliferate rodents in the area. So it's just an opportunity to say, don't feed the wildlife, and here's some like teeth that the Board of Health, that the health department would have outside, that's more immediate and more specific, as opposed to writing up a housing case or writing up a nuisance case and trying to like mitigate it, and when it only kind of gets temporarily mitigated and then it just comes back again because people can't stop themselves from feeding
Yeah.
the wildlife. So it doesn't prohibit tidy bird feeders, just wanna be, you know, clear from the get-go. If you keep a tidy bird feeder, and, I mean, if squirrels get at it and it's spilled all over the place, and then we get a complaint from your neighbor, like that
Bears
could
get
still,
into
yeah,
it.
I mean.
Scented, right?
And if we have a complaint, but anyway, it's an opportunity for us to go and do an inspection, give a verbal warning, give a written warning, and then kind of proceed from there, should we have.
But I'm wondering if we need more specific language just to make sure, I mean, it says. Section 4 shall not be interpreted to prohibit bird feeders as long as the Board of Health Department has not made a finding. This is in number 5B.
Yeah.
Is
Has
it
made, has
defined?
not made a finding that it's a public health nuisance. So we go there and we observe it, we have to observe it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we get the complaint, and if we
Okay.
get there, if say there's a neighbor that's just mad because she's got bird poop all over her car. Well,
Yeah,
if she's got bird poop all over her car because someone's maintaining and regularly restocking a bird feeder, it's not that, we're not gonna intervene. If it's regularly stocked and it looks tidy and there's
Yeah.
not stuff all over the place all the time. You know, I mean, in that situation, it's not something that we would intervene.
So what gets done about, people that, feed the geese and the other waterfowl at like Fawn Lake. You know, I mean, how do the
Well, we're
health department?
Yeah, that
I
wouldn't,
mean,
I
that was
mean,
my question
this-
on the finding and two is.
yeah, it's more like we're not, I mean, we can respond to someone's home, but we're not gonna go out and, we're not the police, so we're not gonna go out and police this, we're not gonna
So
go.
does it need to be said that this applies to people's homes then? Because when I read that over, that
It's the
was,
responsibility of the landowner or person or it says, or person feeding wildlife to ensure compliance.
so that's what, so reading it, when I read it, my husband said, oh, well, look what happens at Fawn Lake and, you know, all the pooping geese there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, that's more of a concern to me than somebody's kind of area in their backyard. I mean, I can see what's helpful about this. is
Well, it says
We
the-
had somebody move into us and they were putting out salt licks for the deer and we were like,
No.
"Duh."
Yeah, I mean, it does say that people can't feed wildlife anywhere, right? It does say, including
Yes.
public or
So
private
that was my
property.
question.
And people can call us and we can go out, I mean, if it's happening in the moment, but
Do
I
we have to
mean,
put a sign at some place like Fawn Lake that's a public place and
we
say,
can say
no
in
feeding?
accordance with.
in accordance, you know, there is no feeding of, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But then my question was just about the fining, you know,
Yeah.
like does $25 deter somebody? So, you know, they get a warning the first time, the second time is $25 and the third time is 100. And I know we can't have egregious large amounts, but I just don't know if that's a deterrent, you know, to somebody who loves feeding the turkeys or whatever, you know, I don't know.
It might be, because I had a number of questions. I don't know if we want to go through sort of in order or focus right now on the finding. Is it the finding over one time frame, like over a year? Or is it in perpetuity?
Yes, yeah.
So let's say I feed something, you give me a warning. I do it again, you give me $25, then $100. Does it reset again at the beginning of the year?
Well, we
Or
talked,
is it?
yeah, we did that with the tolling and the tobacco, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we can,
So-
we add something like that in there.
So I just didn't know about tolling there, and then, just, and this was more just verbiage. I always get confused at the beginning when it says the purpose of these regulations. When it's really one regulation, I think, but maybe it doesn't. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth bullet down. Animals, sometimes we use the word animals, sometimes we use wildlife. So I just didn't know if we needed to be consistent.
Yeah. Again, this is not something
It's an
I'm saying we're
interesting
doing
idea.
this, this is for your,
Yeah.
this is like for your consideration, I'm not, this is, you know, a couple of communities have done it, we can handle it just fine the way we're handling it now.
Yeah.
It's just a way to, another way to.
Would this make it easier for you, more
No,
efficient?
I mean,
No.
ultimately it wouldn't if we were gonna have to become police powers, right?
Right,
It's not
yes.
going to, we don't have the capacity for that. So
Right,
if the expectation is that we're gonna be going to Fawn Lake to try to police now all the people who are feeding wild, or the parks or whatever it is. We're not gonna be able to do that.
I could see a resident saying, why are you finding me? People are feeding geese at Fawn Lake.
Yeah,
You know, so
Yeah.
I'm
right.
I'm just
It's gonna be,
sensitive
it's
to-
all gonna be complaint driven, right? That's as, you know, it's all gonna be complaint driven. It's just gonna provide more opportunity for, I think. Yeah, currently, we're not gonna be able to police it in a public
Yeah.
manner.
So that was my question when I read this, was what was the background that brought this forward? Is it sort of a regulation that other towns are doing, or
No.
it doesn't sound like we're having a major.
Not a major problem, no, it was a way to tidy it up from,
Yeah.
and it may be a way to try to mitigate with the finding structure, but I agree with you, the finding structure is not gonna necessarily be enough to do it.
Yeah,
Where it would help, and there was a house in Lexington as an example. Where I'm assuming they were feeding the turkeys, because every time I drove by, there were anywhere from like 5, 10, 20, 30 turkeys in the yard. And from a vehicle standpoint, first of all, them crossing the road, it was dangerous.
Yeah.
As a walker, it was dangerous because they're there. So I'm not saying I don't like wildlife, because I do, but when you bring them into,
I'm thinking about the
Like that.
pigeon guy that's down by
Mhm.
where Minuteman Diner was. And he got like run out of Brookline or something because he had hundreds of pigeons sitting on his roof.
It's not really wildlife, right? Cause they were contained,
Yeah.
and that's what the consensus was
Mm.
from Mass Wildlife was it. Why don't we track it? Why don't we do a year of tracking, like the complaints, more so,
Okay.
like more specifically, like where they're like if they're
Yes.
wildlife related, where they're coming from? And maybe pick it up again, because
Alright.
I don't really feel like
Yeah.
we, necessarily have capacity right now, but also, let's get some more data to see if it's even worthwhile.
I know you've had some complaints, but.
Yeah.
Maybe more sporadic.
Yeah,
yeah, like, and it would be, to understand who's feeding what, like, I didn't realize someone was feeding the deer.
Well, we were just amazed. I'm not sure people are feeding turkeys, like the turkeys are constantly in our backyard, but it's just our proximity to wetlands.
Right.
That they come out of the
Yeah.
wetland.
Here I saw them.
Yes, they were.
So I
feeding on
knew they were
something.
feeding on
Okay, wow, amazing, someone. I know, we were just like, this guy, they were new to our town, they just didn't understand about the role of deer versus ticks. And we were like, so they were like feeding the deer and we were like, no,
Stop it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stop that, so,
I was chased by a wild turkey when I was a runner in the, with that certain parts of town, they would chase me into the woods.
Yeah.
They get vicious.
They do.
no, and then the geese at Great Meadow, there are times that I turn around and go back the other path, if they're on the far by the.
Really?
They get,
Maybe they come
they
after.
have chicks out, they are just.
Oh.
Yes,
And they're very territorial.
Very territorial, and they chase you and they will
Yeah.
bite,
Mm.
so, yeah, so,
Okay, good.
well, we do have to share the planet.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Thank you for the discussion.
Yeah, and thank you
Yeah,
for raising
Thank you
it.
for doing this, yeah.
And you said one community does have it?
Town of Winchester, yeah,
Winchester, you said?
yeah,
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, let's keep a watch on this.
we'll get some data.
It would be interesting also to see, as we collect our data, also how many complaints
They
result
respond to,
in-
yeah,
They respond to.
we can find that out.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
All right,
It would be
everybody.
reassuring if Winchester was crazier than Bethel.
Yeah. Any updates, discussion of Board of Health goals? I mean.
We kinda did it.
I think I did it as part of the I get confused
I know, I do
between
too. I do
liaisons
too, and I-
and Board of Health.
Yeah, I kinda did. Yeah. Anything else about discussion of Board of Health goals or?
Well, I'm sorry Ann isn't here, because I think it'd be nice to make a public statement on the record.
Right.
Thanking
Yes,
her
yes,
for
I
her
think we
9
should.
years of contributions to this board, so,
And we will deliver this
We will
tomorrow.
deliver
to
this.
Ann.
Jeanette, I'm
We
sorry
actually-
she's not here to have that,
And,
I'd like it to be in the minutes at least.
Yeah.
and,
Yes.
Isn't that
and
nice?
have that.
Yeah,
For sure.
for sure.
Okay,
So I think it was 9 years of service, right?
yes, it was, I think, at least 3 terms, yes.
So Anne, when you listen to this recording, please know that we appreciate your service to the community.
Yes.
Yes. All right, thank you. Anything else for this evening? Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yes.
So seconded. So
All in
seconded.
favor?
I got the last one, so.
And Susan and David, good luck on election day.
Yeah.
That's true.
Thank you.
Everybody, I guess 4-0.
Oh, yes,
Who made the motion, Anita or Maureen?
Whatever, if any of us, we all said it at once,
Okay.
okay, whatever.
One of them and I seconded.
Okay.
Yeah, best of luck.
you.
Thank you,
In terms of
everyone.
In terms of the election, so did you guys participate